Good afternoon. My name is Jill Abel, and I want to welcome you to the TransCelerate Clinical Trial Diversification Better Practices session on diversity awareness. This is the first of 6 sessions developed and recorded by the TransCelerate Clinical Trial Diversification Workstream. The Workstream was established in early 2014 with a goal of improving the ability of sponsors to recruit and retain clinical trial patients representative of the target population. Our vision was to increase the awareness of the need for representative trials and the adoption of practices aimed to improve the recruitment and retention of racially and ethnically diverse populations. To do this, first we identified practices and tools that sponsors could adopt and modify to improve minority recruitment and retention. This was based upon qualitative assessments of sites, advocacy groups, and other experts in the area, including those who participated in this work stream. Next, we developed guidance for each of the identified practices, including the purpose of the practice and implementation strategies. Finally, we began to disseminate the information and raise awareness of the identified practices, tools, and guidelines. In the current clinical trial environment, it is recognized that trial populations may not always reflect the population that will use the medicine. This is important since the safety and efficacy can vary among subgroups. We also know that minorities are often underrepresented in trials, and that addressing diversity or trying to increase diversity can be difficult. But the status quo is being challenged on multiple levels, and companies can proactively respond to these challenges by being prepared. We do know that minority subgroups are growing and shifting, and that shifting the demographics, and soon the minority will be the majority. Marketing approvals are becoming more stringent, and many sponsors have been requested to obtain more data in particular subgroups of patients. Patients, clinicians, payers, as well as a drive towards personalized medicine is also increasing the demand for more robust evidence. Hence, the key question is how can sponsors efficiently and effectively improve the racial and ethnic diversity in clinical trials and better reflect the targeted population? The Clinical Trial Diversification Workstream recommends sponsors proactively raise awareness and encourage use of practices which reduce the barriers to minority participation. This presentation provides an overview of the business case and references key practices which can be readily adopted by study teams. The objective of the diversity awareness materials is to provide sponsor organizations with information and tools to help raise awareness of the need to achieve clinical trial populations which are representative of the target indication. First, looking at some data, the lack of diversity is portrayed in the graph showing the current breakdown of minorities and whites participating in research studies. For example, minorities make up approximately 36% of the U.S. population. Minorities make up about 36% of NIH-funded studies, but only 16% of industry-funded studies. Current guidance suggests that clinical trial populations should reflect the population most likely to use the products, and that trials should be designed using information available from the literature, clinical knowledge, and disease statistics. However, no specific mandates are in place to define specifically what is required. Despite the lack of mandates, sponsors are facing increasing pressure to ensure trial diversity from regulatory bodies, as well as scientific, commercial, and social needs. Regulators do have an increased focus on the makeup of trials. Scientifically, the practice of generalizing conclusions is challenged with the drive towards personalized medicine. Commercially, population demographics are changing. And finally, there is an increased social and societal recognition of the need to develop drugs in all patients. More specifically, from the regulatory perspective, there is an increased focus on trial diversity. The FDA has recently published the FDASIA Action Plan, which focuses on subgroup inclusion, and they are currently pilot testing the drug trial snapshots. Now is the time for sponsors to proactively shape and address these issues. As noted, FDA recently published the FDASIA Action Plan. And this was part of FDASIA, the Food and Drug Administration Safety and Innovation Act, which was signed into law July 2012. Section 907 focused on the inclusion of subgroups in clinical trials and was intended to address the extent to which clinical trial participation and the inclusion of safety and effectiveness data by demographic subgroups was included in applications. The action plan identified 3 priorities and 27 activities. These priorities were quality, participation, and transparency. Quality is aimed to improve the completeness and quality of data collection, reporting, and analysis. Participation is aimed to encourage greater participation by identifying barriers to trial enrollment. And transparency is geared to make data more available and transparent to the public. Currently, there are no mandatory enrollment targets, but existing guidance is under review, and the FDA is determining how best to implement their recommendations and will continue to develop their proposals and seek stakeholder input. The drug trial snapshots is currently being piloted and expected to be posted for all new approvals. The snapshots will publicly post details of a new drug's trial, including the study demographics of the patients, the study design, the study results, and any identified differences among subgroups. Scientifically, we know that some groups of patients respond differently to medicines. Therefore, ensuring a representative population in trials, we can also increase the scientific robustness of the data captured. Commercially, we have changing population demographics with the current minority patients soon to be a majority. In addition, we live in an increasingly consumer-driven society where patients and clinicians demand greater levels of evidence of the medication to prescribe or to utilize. Socially, increasing trial diversity will help meet the needs of patients by allowing patients to be assured that patients like them have been adequately tested or included in trials that have tested the medications. However, despite good intentions, challenges remain. There are many barriers at the sponsor, site, patient, and societal level. Trial diversity is a multifactorial problem and requires multi-stakeholder solutions to achieve success. For example, sponsors may be limited in understanding patient needs or lack the ability to work with research and naive investigators. Sites may not know how best to engage with their patients or their community, or have limited cultural diversity or awareness to effectively communicate with a broad range of patients. Patients may experience practical obstacles that prohibit participation, such as travel costs and childcare, or simply lack trust in the healthcare system. Awareness of trials also exists and can inhibit participation. In an effort to begin to improve the ability of sponsors to recruit and retain minority patients, the Workstream has identified and developed 6 areas for better practice. Each area is designed to offer information and insight to the sponsor that can be implemented and utilized within their company. The first is awareness. Awareness is needed to educate and increase the understanding of the need for diverse trials. The second is patient engagement, which offers guidance on the use of patient engagement techniques to strengthen protocol design and trial feasibility. Cultural competency highlights the value of understanding cultural differences and the ability to communicate effectively with broad population. The reimbursement deck provides insight from institutional review boards on reimbursement for trial participants. The informed consent will provide guidance on the use of the informed consent short form, including when it should be used and how it should be used. And the Community Engagement Toolkit provides sites with suggested processes to better engage with and build relationships with their surrounding communities. The next slides highlight an overview of each of the practices available. The first, the awareness deck we're currently going through. The patient engagement deck can support the design and execution of studies that are more palatable to patients in that patients provide input into the study design, their needs, expected barriers, and meaningful study endpoints, as well as other trial details. This deck offers guidance as to how, when, and why to engage with patients. The deck was developed to educate sponsors and sites about the importance of cultural awareness and competency. This will ensure that each patient's needs and values are considered equally. The cultural competency deck also includes a summary of available training and literature to simplify access and distill the large quantity of existing materials. Reimbursement and compensation has been highlighted as an area that sponsors seek better understanding, particularly around what is acceptable versus what might be viewed as coercive. The reimbursement deck includes perspectives from IRBs on the acceptable use of reimbursement and compensation in trial participants. The short form is a tool that can be used to support the enrollment of non-English speaking or low literacy patients. The Informed Consent Short Form Guidance Deck offers information about what the short form is, when it can be used, and how to use it. And finally, the Community Engagement Toolkit is a resource that sponsors can offer to sites to increase their effectiveness in engaging with their community and building relationships. This will in turn help enhance their ability to recruit and retain patients. The toolkit offers tips on how and with whom sites might engage and includes templates that can be modified for individual use. In conclusion, this slide deck provides sponsors with information to build awareness and to educate their companies on the needs for diverse trials and highlights practices that can support clinical trial diversity. This slide deck and all other materials referred to during the presentation are available for download and use. Additionally, contact information for any questions that arise are provided for each of the focus areas. Thank you.